Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. We are talking the Braves, and this is going to be a big Braves week. This is trade deadline, and in about 8 days, August 1st, 6 p.m., the trade deadline. We're going to know a lot more about every team, not just the Braves, and how they match up going towards the final stretch and into October. But the Braves are making some transactions here, and there's one that stuck out. They signed Yonny Chirinos of the Rays, which we got Ben Heller from the Rays. Maybe this guy's the same thing. The problem is they're two totally different pitchers. We're talking about a guy who gets no whiffs, no strikeouts. He's pretty much every advanced metric. It doesn't even look like, it almost looked like if we went out there and pitched, this is probably what our baseball savant page, because like it's not just like blue, like 28. It's like, no, he's like the worst pitcher at getting strikeouts, the worst in average exit velocity. Sure, he has a 4.02 ERA, but this is a garbage time pitcher that you get when you have a lot of injuries, which the Braves do. The thing I have an issue with is Michael Soroka gets the boot here. He gets the option. Now, maybe there's some roster manipulation in the future. Maybe they put Sam Hilliard on the 60-day IL or something. Like I don't know what they're going to do, but it looks like Michael Soroka is not going to start this weekend, which if it's for Yonny Chirinos, I have a problem with, because listen, Soroka hasn't been great. Yes, his ERA over the last 3 starts has been decent. The Braves have actually won all 3 of those starts, which is kind of my point here. Like, he hasn't been great, but the Braves are still winning his starts. Chirinos isn't going to be any better. Like, it's not like you're sitting here betting on upside with Chirinos. I would rather just see Soroka, see if he can figure out the kinks and work him out, because you have an 11.5 game cushion. It's not like you're going to have Chirinos as he's going to be a guy for you. He's just not. Soroka, do I think he will be? I'm leaning towards almost absolutely not, but there's still that slight sliver if he figures something out. The stuff's good enough to where he could be at least your 5th guy, and who knows, maybe your 4th guy if Bryce Elder really struggles. There's at least some upside there, and you just get to see what you have for the future too. For the future of this organization going into next year, like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense here when a guy has pitched okay, and then you're replacing him with a guy who's, like, dare I say, terrible. Like, he's not good.
It is always strange. We had this at the beginning of the year. I think he had, I don't know, it wasn't just 1 start. It was maybe 2 or 3 starts where Soroka didn't look horrible, but he certainly didn't look good, somewhere in the middle. And we were both, shocked when he got pulled down to AAA, because the organization came out and said they didn't want to yo-yo him back and forth. When they brought him up, they wanted to keep him up. Their words, not ours. So we were basing all of our opinions and all of our analysis off of that. And maybe that was our fault, but still, it seems like they're doing the same thing they did at the beginning of the season, where Soroka has gotten better. In each outing, he's gotten a little bit better. He's gotten a little bit better. And this was always going to be the case. Soroka wasn't going to come back up here. I mean, this isn't groundbreaking news for me. Soroka wasn't going to come up here and just be that Cy Young candidate we saw 3 years ago. There was always going to be, a growth period where he's going to hit some bumps. He's going to go up and down, up and down. But the Braves have that luxury. I mean, they're, like you said, they're 11.5 games up. I think they're 3 or 4 games with the best record in baseball, which is better than any division lead. Not just, the Braves have 11 game division lead, but they also have the biggest division lead, but in all of baseball. Like, this is the time to kind of experiment and do things like that. Now, this could all be all for naught. He could get called right back up, just like you said, roster manipulation. He could not miss his start in his spot in the rotation. But I don't understand it at all, especially when we're trying to figure out, we're building towards October, and this is the time to kind of be like, is Soroka going to be there or not?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know if Soroka's going to be there. I don't know what this is about. Maybe it's limiting his innings. I mean, obviously he hasn't pitched a lot, but it's only I think he only has 29 innings, and I think he only has 60 innings pitched this year. So it's not like he's up there towards 100 or something like that. So I don't it doesn't make sense, because I can tell you one thing: Chirinos isn't going to be there. I can tell you he's not going to be on the playoff roster. At least with Soroka, you have some semblance of hope that he possibly could be something somewhere down the line. And I'd rather him just
and
work
what's so crazy is the organization has been there every step of the way, supporting him, being like, no, we're not going to trade him. We signed him to another year, working up all these things towards being like, hey, we're going to be here for you in every possible way. And they keep just jerking him around. And maybe, obviously we don't have the whole picture. They could be telling him behind the scenes, don't worry, you're coming right back up this weekend. I just don't quite understand it, because if we're, just guessing right now, which is pretty much impossible to do with all the injuries, but if we had to guess the playoff roster, I mean, trends say Soroka is not going to be on the playoff roster at all. Like not only production wise, but the team just might not trust him. I don't get it. I have no idea.
I mean, I don't think he's earned that level of trust. But it's also July and you have an 11.5 game lead. So it's what are we doing here? Let's just see if he can work out the kinks, see if he can learn at this level, because I can tell you, and this is not a new phenomenon, but jerking pitchers around, there's a reason they didn't want to do that. It screws a lot of pitchers up. These guys go back and forth to different cities playing in empty ballparks. It's a much different vibe at each level. So it screws a lot of pitchers up, and it's very hard to get in a rhythm. And also he's not pitching every 5 days. It's usually he pitches every 7 days. And listen, obviously the innings thing is something you have to pay attention. It just makes no sense to me. If this is the case, which is what it seems like, it makes no sense to me.
It's even more than just those things that you just mentioned are super true. A Stripers game versus a game at Truist, it's clear the difference. But even more than both of those things is you got Sean Murphy, who's the best defensive catcher in baseball, behind the plate, making up for your misses. He's a wall back there. You can basically feel comfortable throwing whatever you want to throw, and he's going to stop it. That certain level of trust and confidence between a pitcher and a catcher, it can't be understated how important that is. And, just like you said, jerking him back to AAA. I mean, I don't even know who's a pitcher. Is Trump in Gwinnett right now? That's who it would be. I mean, Trump's a good third string catcher, but he's no Sean Murphy. He's Travis d'Arnaud is head and shoulders better defensively than Trump. So it's more than just, the stadium, the fans, the atmosphere, city to city.
It's getting in a rhythm.
It's everything.
Developing relationships. I mean, listen, Michael Soroka hasn't even thrown to Travis d'Arnaud. He hasn't even thrown to Sean Murphy. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's been out 3 seasons. He's not, these are new catchers for him. Doesn't matter how good you are. Developing those relationships take time. So there's so many things that I'm just confused about, but I'm going to hold off on rushing to judgment, because I'm sure we'll get some news on something this week. I don't know. Maybe he's felt sore. It could be anything, but it definitely, when I saw it and I saw Chirinos and I'm then Soroka, I'm like, dude, what are we doing here? Chirinos is not good. I saw a lot of people being like, oh, he's from the Rays. His ERA is pretty good. I'm like, you go watch Chirinos and tell me, when you see him on the mound for the first time, you're going to be like, oh, this guy sucks. And then we're going to be like, all right, what were we doing? So I'm sure there's going to be answers. I mean, if I'm a Braves reporter, the first thing I'm asking is, why do we send Soroka now? And I'm sure we might get an answer on that. I guess they don't play today, but Tuesday before the Red Sox game, I'm assuming we'll probably get an answer on that. A couple important notes before we rack up this segment. Fried starting on Wednesday. He should be back next week. This is definitely going to be his last rehab start, assuming everything goes well. AJ Minter, rehab start on Tuesday. I don't know when he can technically come off the IL, but his thing was backdated. So, probably next week, I would say. So those two guys, getting those guys back, I don't even really have to say how important that is. And then they also let go of some Forrest Wall, 2 steals the other day. That was kind of cool. Good for him after being a minor league journeyman. But coming up after the break, we're going to get into some trade deadline talk. It's 8 days away. We're going to do some mock trades.